Hello. What to do, chat? What to do, baby boo? All right, chat. We're gonna be reviewing the White House, man. Why it's okay for President Trump to add a freaking ballroom? All right, chat. All right, yeah, here we go, guys. All right, here we go. Can y'all hear everything? All right, chat. Here we go. Let me know if the audio and video is all right, chat. Okay.
This is the story of a great house.
Yeah,
Quiet, but
all right, Chad. This is a story of a great house. All right, Chad. A great house. Okay. Yeah. If anybody doesn't say this is a great house, Chad, it is a great house, Chad. Okay. Yeah. But it's gonna be even better with a ballroom. Okay, and I'm gonna show you why.
ever changing. It has been burned and looted, subtracted.
Chad, that's a shame. It's been burned and looted. The White House has, Chad. It really has. Can anybody tell me who by Chad? Anybody? Anybody try? Chad, the White House has been burned and looted over the years. It has, Chad. It has. We'll continue, Chad. We'll continue. If you got any comments or questions, ask me, Chad. This is why it's okay for President Trump to build a ballroom, because every other president in the history of presidents have changed the White House in one way or the other. We'll continue.
From and added to, demolished and rebuilt. But
Chad, they just say it's been demolished, rebuilt, and added to, right?
still it waits, as it has so many times before, for what fortune a new tenant will bring.
The story of the White House, Chad.
The White House and the city of Washington were planned to go together.
Yeah,
In
it was
1790,
planned, Chad. It was planned.
the land that lay along the
Make sure you hit
Potomac
the like
River
button,
was a
guys. Make sure you hit the
swampy
like button.
wilderness, unpromising to all.
We're going to
but the
show these
imaginative.
liberals why it's okay for Trump to put a ball house there.
That year, under
a
the prodding
ballroom.
of President George Washington, Congress passed a bill which would in time produce a city.
Exactly,
The
Chad.
congressional
Exactly.
bill read, "Be it enacted that a district of territory not exceeding 10 miles square on the River Potomac be accepted for the permanent seat of the government of the United States,
All right, Chad. All right, we got that.
but suitable buildings be provided for the accommodation of the President and Congress." The cornerstones of the Capitol and the White House were laid within the same year. As a home for the President went up, a home necessarily rose for the legislative branch of government.
There you go, Chad. There you go.
The Capitol, like the White House, has had a succession of modifications. There are many approaches to the White House. One is through Lafayette Park, which lies across Pennsylvania Avenue. At first
Yeah,
glance,
we're
it
going
seems
back
very
old
much
school,
like
okay? You
other
gotta go back
parks.
old school, man, okay? Yeah. Uh-oh. Yeah, I think the White House has a pigeon problem, Chad. I think they still have that today. You know what I mean? They still have that problem today. I think they do, Chad. I think they do.
But since it is across the street from the White House, this park has a special air.
Yeah, there you go.
One president, Andrew Jackson, has his statue here. Jackson added the tall white pillars to the White House after he moved in 1829.
Chat, the pillars were not, yeah, chat, there's one change. There's one change to the White House, chat. You know, it's not only Trump that's changing, chat, okay? I'm proving that here. Give me a second.
Plans for such an addition had been left for some future occupant by President Thomas Jefferson a quarter of a century before.
Oh, Thomas Jefferson wanted to change it too, chat, I'm telling you.
All the presidents of the United States, except the first, have lived in this house. Each has
except
put
for,
his
yeah.
stamp on the house.
Yeah, how many of you guys knew that George Washington didn't even live in this house, man? He built it, but he didn't live in it, right?
and in return has been molded by living in it. Not every president has made a tangible change, but each one has added something to the manifold duties and traditions of the president.
See, each one has changed it in their own way. You're going to find out, Trey. You're going to find out. Here we go.
And these are inherited by the incoming president, along with a brief loan of the White House.
Here we go, Jay. Here we go. We're going to dive into it, guys.
It was the first president, George Washington, who steered the city and the White House through their first tortuous years. Arguing with Congress, borrowing and cajoling money to pour into the venture, while the federal city...
Yeah, they're always arguing with Congress, man. Always, sure.
Began to rise along the Potomac River. Presidential homes in New York and Philadelphia.
So, Chad, the first president to change it was Thomas Jefferson, added the east and the columns. Then Andrew Jackson added the north particle. Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard, Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Barack Obama, so on. I mean, it's not just Trump, Chad. Everybody's done it, damn it.
Continuously changed location.
And Trump's paying for it with his own goddamn money and donations.
Moved from house to
they
house.
use your taxpayer dollars, you damn liberals.
Took steps toward providing a permanent home.
See, that's the point that nobody addresses. Trump's paying for it with his own money and donations, Chad. Okay, he's not using the taxpayer dollars, man. Like all the other presidents did. They used our money to do what they needed to do to it, like a bowling alley or a swimming pool or blah blah blah. Yeah, Trump's using his own money, not ours. Okay.
For presidents. Minutes of their meeting of March 14th, 1792, contained the text for an advertisement. A premium of $500 or a medal of that value will be given to the person who shall produce the most approved plan for a president's house.
Now, Chad, that's when that $500, man. I think it was 1790. They did it 1790. $500. That was a lot of money back then, Chad. And they were giving a medal. So I mean, yeah, I wouldn't mind having a medal. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, $500 back then, 1790. That was a lot of money, Chad.
Thomas Jefferson sent in a classic plan, much like his own Monticello in Virginia. William Thornton, first designer of the Capitol, also had a plan. But the design that won the prize was submitted by a struggling Dublin-born architect, James Hoban.
Hey, Chad, if you don't know where Dublin is, it's in Ireland.
Hoban had taken no chances when drawing his plan. He had borrowed freely from aristocrats.
I mean, Chad, look how perfect the windows are aligned. I like that design, Chad. Really, look how perfect the windows are aligned.
Aristocratic houses in England and Ireland. His plan determined once and for all just how the White House would look. The wilderness city, a capital of miserable huts. Washington was called these and worse in 1800. 8 years had gone into its building, and it was still only a raw village scattered along a road called Pennsylvania Avenue.
Good old Pennsylvania Avenue,
Only the north wing of the Capitol up on the hill had been finished when President John Adams came to town in November.
Oh, John Adams.
When Adams went up to address Congress, he congratulated them on having at last obtained a permanent home. The building stood in...
Chad, I'm making this video for all the people that are bitching about Trump building a ballroom. Okay, I'm going to take you guys back. I'm going to take all the libs back to school. That's why I'm making this video. So here we go.
Bleak surroundings. But the site commanded a magnificent view of what one day would be a city. In the White House at the other end of the avenue, Mrs. Adams was having her own troubles. She was shocked by the enormous size of the unfinished, unheated house, and wrote home to New England about it. This house is built for ages to come.
See, Chad, I mean, even back then, the wife ran the house, okay? I mean, even back then, if the wife wasn't happy, happy wife, happy life, that's what I'm saying. Even back then, Chad.
Not one room or chamber is finished to the whole. There was no plumbing, no fence, no drying yard.
Well, Chad, my question is, where'd they poop? There was no plumbing. Where'd they poop? Maybe they'll tell us in this video. I don't know. Where'd they poop back then, Chad,
Laundry was hung in the great East Room. But she said the spot itself was capable of every improvement. President Thomas Jefferson improved the house with a French chef and a staff of domestic servants. He said it was big enough for 2 emperors, 1 pope, and the Grand Lama.
Oh, shit. So, there you go, Chad. Another change. I mean, it's changing. I mean, I don't know why these liberals are so fucking pissed off, Chad. I really don't.
Then, indulging his love of architecture, he enlarged it.
Oh, my God, Chad. We have a president that enlarged the White House, okay? Jefferson enlarged the White House. Trump is enlarging the White House, Chad. What in the hell? I mean, Chad, it's okay if you... I mean, I'm taking you liberals back to school, man, okay? Because every president has changed the White House.
With the architect Benjamin Latrobe, Jefferson drew up plans for oversized columned porticos to be added later.
Chad, did he just say oversized? Why did he go oversized, Chad? I mean, why couldn't he just go regular size? You know what I mean? Everybody's bitching about Trump's ballroom. I mean, come on.
Nothing warmed the White House as effectively as Dolly Madison, who was Jefferson's official hostess for the 8 years that Madison was Secretary of State.
I wonder if there was anything going on there, Chad. I don't know.
Later, as First Lady, she was described as a fine, buxom, portly dame, fond of parties.
Chad, did he just say fine, buxom, portly dame? I'm gonna have to look that shit up. I don't speak that kind of language, but I mean that was some pretty big words there, Chad.
And Paris gowns. When she was called Your Majesty, it seemed to fit. War.
Whoa! Your Majesty, Chad. Your Majesty. Holy but Jesus, man. Oh my God.
Was President Madison's chief worry. He was sure it would not reach Washington. But on a hot August day in 1814.
Uh-oh, Chad. Oh, guess what?
The British invaders had set
the British
fire
is
to public
coming.
buildings,
The British
bridges,
is coming.
docks, and navy yards. The light thrown off by burning buildings was equal to that of a sunny day.
Oh, man. They burnt down the White House, Chad. They really did. They burned down the White House.
Townsmen caught in the city looked on in horror as redcoats marched through the streets, triumphantly viewing the destruction.
Them damn redcoats.
Admiral Cockburn towered heroically above the city in flames.
Did he just say Admiral Cockburn? I think that's what he said. I mean, should we rewind it? I think that's what he said, though.
And his British sailors thought it all had been a joke. The White House stood deserted when the soldiers reached it. The guard, the Madisons, and all the servants had fled. After helping themselves to souvenirs, the soldiers set fire to the house. Flames leaped from the mansion.
Chad, they burned down the White House. They did, and then they had to rebuild it.
During the night, a violent storm arose. Torrential rains put out the fires all over the city. An eyewitness described the White House the following day. In the president's house, not an inch but its cracked and blackened walls remained. That scene, which was so splendid, thronged with the great, the gay,
Holy cow, Chad,
the
they burned
ambitious,
it. They burned it down,
was now
Chad.
nothing but ashes.
They burned it down.
Alas, this is human grandeur.
Horrible, Chad. I mean, yeah, why would they burn it down, Chad? I mean, it's just not right, guys, okay? Now we got to rebuild it, okay?
The Madisons set up a temporary residence in Octagon House, and Dolly's entertaining went on as before.
we had a temporary White House. How many of you liberals knew that? I guarantee you no liberal knew that, Chat.
The city, which had just begun to grow, would have to be built again from the beginning.
Hey, if you're a liberal and you're in my chat, put a 1 if you knew that. But I'm not going to see any 1, so.
The White House slowly rose again. President James Monroe moved in while it still smelled of fresh paint.
Yeah, Chad, you gotta love the smell of fresh paint, don't you, Chad? I'm telling you. I mean, back when it probably had lead in it back then too. I mean, probably.
To aid their policy of greater social front, the Monroes furnished the house lavishly with trappings imported from France.
Oh my God, a travesty with shit imported from France. I mean, that's a lot of money, man. I mean, in today's market, that probably would have been like $500 million. I mean, back then, I mean, imported from France, okay? I mean, look back then, I mean, that would equal today about $500 million. Of taxpayers' money.
Congressmen gasped when they saw the bills, but they were much impressed by the rooms full.
Congressmen gasp as they saw the bill, as they're doing right now. Holy but Jesus, it doesn't change, Chad. It doesn't change.
Of crimson damask and giltwood furniture. The White House reborn had taken on a shimmering elegance. It welcomed a celebrated visitor late in 1824, when the aging Marquis de Lafayette came to America for the last time. He parked the gifts lavished on him in the East Room and continued his triumphal tour. As a crowning touch to his years in the White House, Monroe added the south portico from the plans left by Thomas Jefferson.
Okay, so they added something. They added something else, Chad. Here you go, Chad. They keep adding. I mean, what's wrong with Trump adding?
The people took over when his worshippers came in droves and made themselves at home. It was political and social upheaval. What a pity, wrote an observer. A rabble, a mob, scrabbling, fighting, romping. Jackson's courtly side went well with the new luxury of the mansion, which he decorated in red, blue, and yellow. A notoriously violent man, Jackson also aroused violence in others. Once he barely escaped being assassinated, but the would-be murderer's gun missed fire. The Peggy Eaton scandal, revolving around the tarnished name of a cabinet wife, brought scathing suggestions from the press that Peggy was perhaps running Jackson's cabinet. The president's niece, Emily Donaldson, would not speak to Peggy when she came to the White House. But later on, Peggy appeared prim enough to please even Emily. At Jackson's last public reception, the people dug into a monstrous, smelly cheese placed in the center of the vestibule.
Chat, not just any cheese, a monster, smelly cheese, Chat, okay?
Entire families came to Washington by riverboat or train to be in on this last big show in the White House. The cheese was gone in 2 hours, but its odor lingered for a year. King Andrew, the Yankee King. Jackson had been called some disparaging names in his day. But still, he left the White House as popular with the crowd as ever. On a blustery day in March 1841, General William Henry Harrison went up to the Capitol for his inauguration. The popular old Indian fighter was destined to have the shortest term of office of any president. 30 days after his swearing in, while cries of Tippecanoe and Tyler too still hung in the air, President Harrison died in the White House. For the first time, a president received an East Room funeral.
Yeah, that place must be haunted, man. I ain't gonna lie, man.
In Washington, in the late 1850s, the air was heavy with treason. Talk of secession was heard throughout the city. And in the Capitol, congressmen from the South sat next to men who would gladly die for the Union. In the White House, the bewildered pro-slavery President James Buchanan was helpless before the flood of North-South hatred. He did, however, bring to the mansion a newfound social prestige.
All right, Chad. All right, here we go.
Touched the White House in 1860, when the first Japanese ambassadors arrived in Washington, bringing rich gifts for the president. The envoys were amazed.
See, Chad, rich gifts, damn it. Okay, Trump got an airplane, so what? You know, they got gifts back. All right, Chad, it's gifts they got. We proved they got gifts too, okay, Chad? Trump got a freaking airplane, okay, but they got gifts from freaking, look.
The public turned out to stare at them. One wrote in his diary, "What immense crowds there were. The streets were like seas of human beings. I could not help smiling at the wonder in their eyes." The entertainments continued, while Mr. Lincoln of Illinois was elected to the presidency, and South Carolina led the march of southern states out of the Union. At parties on the South grounds, the Marine Band played tunes to please both North and South.
Oh, President Lincoln.
And so there began the most tragic era the White House had known.
I know, man. He was a great president, Chad. He really was.
From the start, Lincoln's office upstairs over the East Room was besieged by job hunters, hungry for post office and consulate places. Once when he had a light case of smallpox, Lincoln joked about it, "Now at last I have something I can give all of them." There was no let-up after the war had begun, and a civilian battalion had been recruited for the protection of the White House. In spite of the war, the East Room had its full quota of receptions and balls, when Mr. Lincoln stood shaking hands for hours on end.
See, Lincoln had a damn, it was a ballroom, man, okay? Look at all the people, they're ball dancing and shit, okay? If Trump wants his own ballroom, he should be able to get it. I mean, look at Lincoln. He would dance around like in the ballroom.
Mary Lincoln, with the eyes of society upon her, competed frantically with other women in the extravagance of her dress. And abolitionists raged against spending money on...
I mean, Chad, look at, they're all bumping elbows. That place is definitely not big enough to hold a ball, okay? It's definitely not, you know? I mean, Cinderella would be ashamed, okay? I'm just saying, Chad, Cinderella would be freaking ashamed.
Clothes and entertainment in wartime. But 11-year-old Willie Lincoln died in the second winter of the war. And Mary...
Chad, I guarantee you, nobody knew President Lincoln's son's name was Willie, okay? Rest in peace, Willie. Rest in peace, buddy. Rest in peace. Everybody, rest in peace, Willie.
Mary Lincoln had little heart for parties. Because of their grief, the Lincolns banned music inside and out of the White House. And Mrs. Lincoln would...
You talking about free speech? They banned freaking music inside and outside the White House. I bet y'all didn't know that either. Holy shit, man. You couldn't play music inside or outside of the White House, man. You talk about free speech.
Never again entered the room where Willie had lain. The war went on interminably. Lincoln buried his sorrow under a mountain of presidential and military duties. His search for a satisfactory general ended with Ulysses S. Grant. The Lincolns had to find time for receptions at which military figures were now the most important guests. The end of the war was in sight when Lincoln was assassinated as he sat in the theater box.
Damn it, Chad, man. Damn it, Chad. I mean, Trump had to go through the same. He was almost assassinated. He was, Chad. Okay, thank God he wasn't, but he almost was.
Mrs. Lincoln, prostrated in an upstairs room, could not escape the agonizing sounds of the state funeral and the ponderous dirges of the Marine Band.
Chat, if you have not liked the stream, please do. I'm trying to bring ballroom awareness to the liberals. So make sure you hit that like button. I appreciate it, guys.
The black canopied hearse carried the coffin to the train for the long roundabout trip back to Springfield. And Mary Lincoln still lay in a darkened room.
I mean, poor little Willie Lincoln. I mean, Chad, you couldn't play music in the streets or in the White House after little Willie Lincoln passed away, Chad. Okay. That was President Lincoln's son. I mean, he made it a law, Chad. He did. I mean, y'all are bitching about Trump, y'all's freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. Lincoln made it so you couldn't play music inside or outside the White House.
Shattered and ill.
Uh-oh, Chad, what we got next?
That summer, with the arrival of a new president, Andrew Johnson, there were band concerts on the White House lawn again.
More taxpayer dollars. Holy shit, more taxpaying dollars. Now, for all you libs out there, Trump is paying for this ballroom with his own money and donations, not taxpayer money, okay? Just remind us when you watch this video.
The luster of his name took General Ulysses S. Grant into the White House after the war. And a suggestion of the sporting life went with him.
Chat, look at them horses all over the lawn, man. I wonder how much horse shit was all over. I'm just saying, chat. Looking at this picture, there was probably a lot of horse shit all over the White House lawn.
Daily, Grant strolled down to the stables to visit his favorite racehorses, Egypt and Cincinnati, and a pony named Red, who had been captured at Vicksburg.
A pony named Red. I guarantee y'all didn't know that, chat.
Reb and Billy Button carried the Grant children to school each morning. In summer, the Grants, with full entourage, visited the seashore. The move required carloads of clothing and trappings. The Grants and friends dressed up in city clothes when they sat on the front porch of their seaside cottage.
Chat, what the hell is a city? Chat, anybody know what a city clothes is? What are city clothes?
The cold-eyed Grant was a consecrated family man, and Mrs. Grant was his greatest admirer.
Chat, look at it. She looks like the Wicked Witch from the West or East in the Wizard. Don't she? She does. I swear to God. If you watch the Wizard of Oz, she looks like, is it the Wicked Witch of the West? I think it is, chat, or the East. The bad witch, the green one.
Her father was Colonel Dent of Missouri.
Holy freaking bud. What the hell? Is that a mole? Oh my gosh, chat.
The most engaging member of the family was Nellie, who at the age of 18 made a brilliant marriage to an English aristocrat. Wedding presents streamed into the White House and were displayed for the admiration of visitors.
All right, chat, gifts, okay? All right, Trump got a freaking airplane, but they got gifts too, okay? It's okay if Trump gets gifts, okay?
For the ceremony, Nellie's stiff little bridal bouquet carried a tiny banner flaunting the word love.
Now, chat, okay, when you get gifts way back then, okay, like $500 back then was like, $5 million today, chat, okay? Just remember that, okay?
Elaborate entertaining was expected from the White House, and the Grants gladly met the demands. Behind a flowery jungle of table decorations, guests at their dinner parties consumed a feast of 24 courses, accompanied by the proper wine.
24 courses, chat. That's 24. I mean, we pay for that shit, okay?
Pilfering at White House receptions was not considered serious. But when President Grant discovered that there was graft going on within his own cabinet, he called the guilty member to the White House. After a long and tearful scene, the heartbroken Secretary of War was dismissed.
Chad, it was called the Secretary of War back then, okay? So what is the problem with it being called the Secretary of War now? Okay? They just brought it back to the same name it was back then, okay? Gotta take all the Libs back to school, Chad, I do.
And a speech from the new president. The lofty-browed, reform-minded Rutherford B. Hayes. The Hayes family set an example of quiet Victorian home life, with Sunday evening hymn singing in the upstairs parlor and the banning of all alcoholic beverages. Mrs. Hayes was dubbed
Chad, the banning of all alcohol beverages, okay? You couldn't drink back then, okay? What were you supposed to do? Okay?
Lemonade Lucy in worldly quarters.
I guess lemonade, you got to drink lemonade, Chad, lemonade.
But to the conservative, she was a national heroine. A female journalist praised
Make sure
her
you hit that like button,
extravagantly.
Chad.
I have never seen
Hit
such
that
a face
subscribe
reign
button
in
as
the
well.
White
I'm
House.
Hey, it's lazy. We're
I
taking
wonder
the
what the world
liberals
of
down
Vanity
memory
Fair will do
lane
with it.
and showing them
Will it frizz that
it
hair,
used to be called
powder
the
that
Department
face?
of War back
The
in
answer
these
was
days,
clearly no.
and they've changed
At
the
White
White
House
House, okay?
receptions for ladies,
Just pay attention,
There were
okay?
no frizzes in her hair, no rats, no puffs on her head, and there was no bustle on Mrs. Hayes' dress.
Yeah, no bustle on her dress, okay? No bustle.
From the days of Thomas Jefferson, Western Indians had come to see the president. They came to see Hayes, too, and the eternal business of treaty making went on in the offices and parlors of the White House.
Chat, make sure you hit the like button, guys.
The bells, bonfires, and skyrockets were for President James A. Garfield's inauguration. But Garfield's days in the White House were tragically brief. 4 months later, he was shot by a political fanatic as he stood in a crowded Washington railroad station. By the time an ambulance arrived to carry the president to the White House, he seemed to be near death. But Garfield rallied, and there began a grim, heartbreaking summer of waiting. His attacker, Charles Guiteau, defended his act when he talked to reporters. Messengers continuously carried news of Garfield's condition to the newspapers. The public hung on the slightest word from the White House as hopes for the president's recovery rose and fell. Garfield's family continued their show of courage in the face of disaster. In late summer, an electrical device was used in an effort to find the exact location of the bullet. But the experiment was a failure. Alexander Graham Bell, inventor of the machine, had warned that it would fail if there were any metal near the bed. Nevertheless, Garfield's mattress had been placed on steel springs. The president, sensing the hopelessness of his case, had begged to be taken to the seashore. It was a complicated move to Elberon, New Jersey. Workmen had labored day and night to lay a track right to the door of the presidential cottage. While Garfield's life slowly ebbed away, all government business came to a halt. Cabinet members settled down nearby to wait out the ordeal which stretched before them.
Sounds like the damn Democrats today, you know what I mean? It sounds like the Democrats today, you know what I mean? sitting on their, asses, not doing nothing.
Crowds kept up a vigil day and night along the beach in front of the house. On the night of September 19, 1881, the long-suffering president died. In Washington, the White House, like the nation, was in mourning. A touch of romance lightened the gloom which had settled over the White House when President Grover Cleveland married Frances Folsom.
Grover Cleveland. Okay, all right, we're getting somewhere.
The beautiful young Mrs. Cleveland was the perfect hostess in an era of considerable grandeur, and the perfect wife and mother.
Yeah, don't they say that about every president's wife? You know what I mean? Except for Donald Trump's wife. Why do they say, she's not perfect? She is, Chad. She is.
The Clevelands had plans drawn for enlarging the White House, but they got nowhere. Later, Mrs. Benjamin Harrison's plans were also unsuccessful, fortunately, in the opinion of many. The leading design encompassed salons, anterooms, rotundas filled with statuary.
What the hell? What the hell? Look at all that shit they added to the White House. I'm telling you. What the hell?
Conservatories and winter gardens.
Conservatories and winter gardens, shit. Back then, I'm telling you.
There was no denying that the president's family needed more room, but it was thought there must be a simpler way to get it. In the 1890s, a greater part of the American public than ever before or after got an intimate look at the inside of the White House. There were many approaches. The east entrance was coldly formal. The south gate, where the watchman and his dog Dash had matching houses, much more friendly.
Dad, they have matching houses, okay? Okay, why do you need matching houses? If we can't have a ballroom, y'all shouldn't have had matching houses for a damn dog. Okay, that's taxpayer money.
Members of presidential families were often on the south lawn. A messenger was on hand at the north entrance and a hard-hatted cop at the front door. The office staff would gladly leave its quarters on one of the special days. There were always visitors waiting in the vestibule. The fancy Tiffany screen would slide aside to admit them to the inner rooms.
Okay, chat, a Tiffany screen. Okay, I don't think that's still there. So what happened to the chat? Tiffany is expensive, okay? Tiffany shit. Look at them lamps. I'm telling you, they're expensive. What happened to the Tiffany screen? I don't think it's still in the White House, chat. I don't.
The East Room, awe-inspiring by virtue of its size and the magnificent associations of the past.
I mean, Chad, that chandelier alone probably, holy shit.
But genuine Steamboat Palace nonetheless, its ostentatious tone still in fashion after decades. It was still acceptable in the 90s to drop in to call, or at least to leave a card indicating that an invitation would be appreciated. The red parlor jammed to the rafters with fringe, bric-a-brac, bibelots, plush, potted plants.
Bric-a-brac. I don't even know what the hell that is, but it sounds expensive, okay?
Oversized vases and the eagle-crowned screen.
Oversized vases, child. Okay, why did it have to be oversized? Why couldn't it? I mean, it would have saved us money if they were like regular size. You know what I mean? Why did it have to be oversized?
The state dining room table was set with the decorations imported from France by President Monroe.
Cat imported from France. That had to cost an arm and a leg, I'm telling you. I mean, back in those days, importing stuff from France had to cost like you know, over thousands of dollars, man. You know, in today's money, that's like, you know, a couple $100,000, $1 million probably. Yeah.
They had been considered an extravagance in 1817,
See,
and the president had been criticized for spending so much money.
see, goddamn, they're always being criticized. They're spending too much money. I mean, come on. And President Trump's not even spending, he's spending his own money. You know what I mean? Come on.
The private stairway led up to the family quarters. Bedroom was the grandest.
I mean, they were spending taxpayer money. President Trump spending his own money. He's still getting hated on, Chad. What the hell?
Room of them all. It was a mystifying mixture of the regal and comfortable. The old Victorian bed used by Abraham Lincoln was now royally canopied, but Lincoln ghost stories still centered around.
Oh, Chad, they just couldn't deal with the old bed. They had to get a canopy one.
They had him walking around it, or as one guest who had seen the ghost said, sitting on it, putting on his shoes. In the nursery, the younger children had a world of their own, where a little girl could forget her manners. Mothers could visit occasionally. Some utilitarian aspects of the mansion, homely but necessary, were hidden away in the basement. Old Jerry had seen many White House occupants come and go.
God bless you, old Jerry. God bless you, old Jerry.
The office stairway, so well trodden by favor seekers from the beginning. A visitor described it in an unforgettable way. As I go up the stairs, the atmosphere is heavy and close on this stairway and affects one singularly. Perhaps the sighs of disappointed office seekers who for more than half a century have descended the steps have permeated the walls and give to the air a quality that defies ventilation. In the waiting room, all these people are eager-eyed, restless and nervous. They want something which the great man in that well-guarded room can give if he chooses, but which they fear they will not get. Under the spell of President McKinley's charm, even unsuccessful job seekers went away happy. The cabinet room was next door to the president's office. Altogether, the executive offices took up half of the second floor. A special nook was set aside for the chief of the White House police. Nearby was a map room for military planning. And the telegraph clicked away incessantly.
Chad, you know how much a telegraph cost back then? Holy cow. I mean, a lot of money, Chad, a lot of money. Yes, I said telegraph. It wasn't a telephone, Chad. You had to click that shit. I'm telling you.
White House communications, both by telegraph and telephone, had begun to extend their range widely.
Why couldn't they just use pigeons, okay? They could have, I mean, save taxpayer dollars and just use pigeons.
The 19th century came to its stately close, and the White House ended its first 100 years.
All right, the White House is now 100 years old. It's been rebuilt. A lot of shit's been added with taxpayer money, okay? Donald Trump's building a ballroom with donations and his own money trap.
Appropriately, near the start of the new century, a young man.
We got 100 more years to go. Don't go to sleep on me. Come on now. Hey, get you a big hot cocoa or something.
President Theodore Roosevelt moved into the mansion. Roosevelt loved the White House.
Oh, I bet he did, Roosevelt. Yeah, he did.
The famous Tiffany screen.
Roosevelt liked putting Japanese Americans in concentration camps too, Chad. He did. I swear to God, he did. He did. Look it up, Chad.
which had kept drafts from the inner rooms for 2 decades, was the first thing to go.
No,
Then
man,
Roosevelt
not
got rid
that.
of the greenhouses, the showplace of the house. The sprawling jumble of conservatories that leaned against the west wall had been accumulating for nearly a century.
Yeah, he was a damn Democrat. He got rid of the greenhouses. What the hell?
As each First Lady had added her favorite flowers. They were demolished to make room for an executive wing.
He demolished the freaking greenhouses for an executive. What the hell, Chad? What? Why?
And a compact building rose in their place. The offices were out of the White House proper and into quarters of their own at last. A well-known characteristic of the Roosevelt family was its love of pets. Every breed of animal and bird was collected.
And we paid for it, Chad. Us as taxpayers paid for it.
White House police in those days were few but choice. Often a man would spend his entire adult years there, gradually seeming to belong to the household. The Roosevelt children would not miss a chance to be with them, and often showed up for police roll call. Roosevelt took for granted that President Taft would follow carefully in his footsteps while in office. But Taft had his own ideas about running the government. The conscientious president was not happy in the White House, however. And the more he worried, the more his weight rose, in spite of all his exercising. An outsized bathtub had to be installed in the White House.
Chad, holy but Jesus, look at the size of that bathtub, Chad.
Only Taft's intimates knew how the hard-working president chafed under the duties of office. The Tafts, in the best White House tradition, kept a cow named Pauline Wayne.
Yeah, they had a cow in the White House, okay? A cow named Pauline.
She was the last of a long line of cows and horses that had munched the presidential grass.
Oh, my God, Chad.
President
Oh, my
Woodrow
God.
Wilson's sheep also grew fat on the White House grass
And they had sheep. Holy but
after the
Jesus.
First World War began. Their wool brought $100,000 at an auction for the Red Cross.
$100,000 back then, like $1 billion today, Chad.
Wilson's first cabinet included William Jennings Bryan as Secretary of State. Incongruously, Wilson often entertained his cabinet with jokes and dialect stories. And he liked to boast to his family that he could have made the grade in show business if he had really wanted to. The selfie-facing Mrs. Wilson became ill after they went to live in the White House. She died in the summer of 1914. Her last words to the family physician were, "Take care of Woodrow."
Yeah, Woodrow is the president. Woodrow Wilson.
God has stricken me almost beyond what I can bear, Wilson wrote a friend the day after her death. Adding to the strain of his grief was anxiety over the outbreak of war in Europe. By the start of President Wilson's second term, he had married again. His bride was the attractive Edith Galt, who was to be his greatest source of encouragement in the ordeals to come. After our entry into the war in April 1917, the White House again became a military center. Wilson, for the first time, talked by radio to a plane overhead. For 7 years, suffragettes carried on their fight for votes for women. The president admitted that at times they were a little frightening. Vitriolic criticism of his post-war leadership and the shattering of his dream of a League of Nations destroyed Wilson's health. He spent his remaining days in the White House as an invalid, and the public only occasionally got a glimpse of him when he was taken for a drive.
Kind of sounds like Sleepy Joe, doesn't it,
A
Chad?
disillusioned Wilson, saddened and frail, accompanied President-elect Warren G. Harding to the Capitol for Harding's inauguration. No president had looked the part more perfectly. A small-town warmth pervaded all the Harding parties and receptions. The administration got off to a promising start. The White House vibrated with gaiety, and there were visits from famous personages. Madame Eve Curie was given a reception. And the scientist Albert Einstein brought a party to see the popular president. But Harding's term was not half over before there were persistent rumors of dishonesty in high places. When the Hardings left on their Alaskan trip in the summer of 1923, the president suspected that his administration was in ruins. During the journey, he asked reporters what a president should do when betrayed by friends. Sick with worry, he collapsed on the return trip and died in San Francisco. While the empty rooms awaited a new president, the train brought Harding back to Washington. His devoted laddie boy still watched for his return. Calvin Coolidge was untouched by the Harding scandals. Dry and taciturn, Coolidge could nevertheless smile when he wanted to, certainly on political occasions. And he soon rode the crest of the popularity wave. Some thought Mrs. Coolidge was one of the president's greatest assets. All ages enjoyed the White House when she was there. Pets again had a heyday. Mrs. Coolidge even had a beady-eyed raccoon named Rebecca.
Yeah, a raccoon. Come on.
In the 1920s, if you needed some surefire publicity, the White House was the place to go. Western Indians visiting Washington now were photographed on the steps. Mr. and Mrs. Doll of the circus sat on the arms of the circus giant, and all three benefited. Tom Mix of Hollywood Westerns rode his horse right up to the south portico and later cavorted on the grounds. President Herbert Hoover's administration began auspiciously. But in the autumn of 1929, it was overtaken by economic disaster. As if the president did not have enough worries, the executive wing had a ruinous fire, which made the offices unusable for months. Government business had to be carried on elsewhere. If it is a revolution, it is a peaceful one, said President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in answer to attacks on his New Deal measures. Before long, certain other FDR trademarks were as famous as the smile and the cigarette holder. The president's fireside chats lifted the spirits of the nation during the Depression years. Two small grandchildren, Sisty and Buzzy Doll, bore their share of White House publicity. FDR thrived on press conferences. Although he might explode in anger afterwards, during the sessions he managed to keep in control. Only the most important persons were permitted to visit the president in his upstairs study. But Falla, his pet Scotty, came to see him daily. Not content with attacks on me, they now include my little dog Falla, Roosevelt complained of his political foes. Falla nearly made the trip up to the Capitol for Roosevelt's third inauguration. But Falla had to go to make room for Roosevelt, Rayburn, and Barclay. Secretary of State Cordell Hull was still carrying on negotiations with Japanese peace envoys Nomura and Kurosu in the early winter of 1941. And President Roosevelt had received them at the White House when on December 7th, the Japanese made an all-out attack on Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, they made a mistake there.
From that time on, the White House was the base for operations. but Roosevelt traveled widely as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. A great joy of Roosevelt's remaining days was his large family. On the day of his 4th inauguration, he was photographed with Mrs. Roosevelt and their 13 grandchildren. When President Harry S. Truman and Mrs. Truman came to live in the White House, it had seen almost a century and a half of hard use. Mr. Truman had always taken a great interest in architecture and building, and he found that the house was literally falling down. A wag said it was staying up solely from habit. President Truman soon initiated the 3-year-long, $6 million restoration.
Yeah, $6 million back then. Holy, that's like $20 billion today, okay? $6 million back then is like $20 billion today, okay? All right. I don't want to hear anything from the left about Trump building his ballroom, okay? That's a lot of money back then.
Which he had to vacate the White House.
And Trump don't have to vacate shit, okay? Everybody's still working up there.
As the interior walls came down in preparation for rebuilding, some surprising discoveries were made. Original stones, fire blackened in the 1814 burning. A well from the days of President Thomas Jefferson. A gold-leafed ceiling decorated for President Monroe. Ornate plasterwork was removed from ceilings and walls, cataloged and carefully packed away. Bulldozers excavated for a 2-story basement.
See, they have bulldozers back then. Everybody's bitching about the bulldozers today.
And a steel framework rose inside the outer walls, which was strengthened by concrete underpinnings. Service rooms went under the grounds. All over the house, highly skilled crews of painters, carpenters, electricians, and plasterers set up special shops. And for the next 3 years, the intricate job of putting the White House together again went on.
Yeah, 3 years it took. Holy bejesus.
At last, it was time to put the old chandeliers up again in an uncluttered and elegant East Room. The Blue Room walls got a silken covering in blue and gold. And this most formal of parlors looked as it was intended to look by its designers. The celebrated Lincoln bed found itself in a new setting. The solarium, looking out on the south grounds, got new furnishings. The roof had some notable additions. Even the grounds were done over. But President Truman had only become settled in the renewed mansion when he had to relinquish it to the next tenant. In January 1953, President Dwight D. Eisenhower and Mrs. Eisenhower came to live in the White House. They soon succeeded in imparting a warm domestic air to the stately and rather formal mansion. At the same time, they kept up the tradition of receiving distinguished personalities. Visitors to the Eisenhower White House noted that every part of the great house reflected a simple dignity. The President's office, with its symbols of office always on display, confirmed this feeling. President Eisenhower summed up in simple language the importance of the White House to the nation. We must never minimize what the White House, just as a building, means to America. I have seen strong men come into that building with tears on their cheeks. I think the White House should never be overshadowed by anything or ill-treated. On December 6, 1960, President Eisenhower had an especially important visitor in the person of the new president-elect, John F. Kennedy. And January 20th, 1961, saw the formal swearing in of the 35th president, the youngest man ever elected to the presidency. President Kennedy and Mrs. Kennedy entered the White House with the enthusiastic best wishes of the nation. When the small Kennedy children arrived, the domestic picture was complete. A new president sits in the White House.
Chad, I wonder if they're going to say anything about the tunnels. You know what I'm talking about, Chad. You know what I'm talking about, the tunnels underneath the White House.
And from his office in the West Wing come some of the most important decisions in the world. The ceremonial center of the mansion is still the state dining room. As the appointed moment for a dinner approaches, candles cast their glow over the tables and walls, exactly as they have for over a century and a half. Carved in the marble of the room's fireplace is a profound wish written by President John Adams in the year 1800. I pray heaven to bestow the best of blessings on this house and on all that shall hereafter inhabit it. May none but honest and wise men ever rule under this roof.
God bless Donald Trump, Chad. God bless him.
The enduring qualities of the White House have lived on within its thick sandstone walls. The vision of Washington, who did
Chad,
not
it's
live to
changed a
see
lot,
his
guys.
dream.
That's my point, man.
The spacious and ordered concepts of Jefferson, the spirit of Jackson, the patience of Lincoln, and the reason and daring of other presidents. Great men and women have lived in the White House and will continue to live there. For in the words of the first tenant, this house is built for ages to come.
Yeah, see, and they changed it, Chad. They did. They changed it, Chad. They did. See, I'm not lying, Chad, okay? Every president of the United States have changed it, Chad. Everyone. And if you go back to the early days and how much they spent, I mean, it's no difference than Trump spending well, he's spending, he's spending his own money. You know what I'm saying? His own money, Chad. And donations, Chad. And donation. He ain't spending
Caroline
our money,
Harrison
guys.
is credited with adding electricity to the executive mansion in 1891, although it's said the
Let's see. Hold on a second.
May none but honest and wise men ever rule under this roof. But only 14 years later, the British said,
it's one of our planet's most iconic buildings, a symbol of the US, and the most secure family home in
Well,
the
Chad,
world.
they added the East Wing, the West Wing, you know what I mean? The tunnels, solar panels, blah, blah, blah. I mean, everybody's done something to it, Chad. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just going to make it better. You know what I mean? It's just going to make it better, guys. But anyway, man, I just thought I'd come on and make a short little video, man. I hope everybody tunes in and watches this later, man, because I think everybody could, you know, kind of take in what I said during the video. I'll be live probably this afternoon if anything's going on in Portland, and we're going to be streaming that. So until then, much love. Hey, it's Lazy. Is out, baby.